Okay, where we left off, we were almost done with chapter 41, and Mars Bar decided to step into traffic to show the Pickwells how his trick of stopping traffic with nothing but his glare. Not only did he shamble, jive, shuck, and hip doodle at his own sweet pace, he did something he had never even done in the East End. He came to a complete and utter halt halfway across and let nothing but the evil in his eye take care of the rest. He stood like that for 1 full minute. By the time he finally moved to the far side, as the legend goes, 23 cars, several bicycles, and a bus were stacked to a dead stop in both directions. Maniac hurried across while the Pickwells stood at the curb cheering and waving goodbye. But no one was cheering now in Fort McNabb, and Maniac knew that despite the swagger and the scowl and the chocolate stogie, Mars Bar Thompson was one uneasy dude. All right, how do you think it's going to go with the party? Are they going to throw him out? George McNabb, the dad, was the first to speak up. He was stretched out on the only new piece of furniture in the house, which was a tilt-back lounge chair. Said McNabb, "What's he doing here?" The awkward silence that followed was mercifully broken by Piper, tugging on Maniac's arm. "Where's my birthday present? What'd you get me?" Maniac pulled the present from his pocket. Piper exclaimed, "A watch?" "No," said Maniac, "a compass. It tells you which direction you're going." "Like to the ocean?" asked Russell. "The ocean, Mexico, anywhere in the world," Maniac said. "Only one thing." "What's that?" Maniac took the compass from Piper's hand. "I'm keeping it till school's over. If you go every day, both of you, then you can have it back and sail around the world." "On a raft," Piper cheered. "Is it a deal?" Piper and Russell and Maniac did a 3-way high five. "It's a deal." George McNabb pulled himself up from the easy chair and shuffled into the kitchen. He wore bareback slippers over bare feet. His white ankles were dirty. He took a beer can from the fridge and headed for the steps. "Let me know when it leaves." And he went upstairs. Maniac could feel the voltage that surged through Mars Bar and crackled black lightning from his eyes. Quickly, he clasped his hands. "Hey, isn't it a party? Where are the games?" So they played games. Silly games whose main object seemed to be shrieking and screaming. Mars Bar allowed himself to be dragged into them, but his jaw was clenched and his eyes kept straying to that gaping hole in the ceiling and to the cobras who were slouching against the wall and the baseboards, sipping beers and watching his every move. None of them had spoken since Mars Bar and Maniac walked in. Of course, as far as the little kids were concerned, the highlight of the whole party was not the birthday boy Piper McNabb, but the McNabbs' new pillbox, their fort. They found every excuse to stay inside of it. They fought over the space at the narrow gunnery slots. When Mars Bar whispered to Maniac, "What is that?" Maniac said, "It's a bomb shelter." Then Russell called, "Let's play rebels! Whites in the pillbox, blacks outside." It's going to make for a problem, right? A cheer went up, and a dozen kids stampeded into the pillbox. Their gabbles circled the cinder block walls and popped from the gunnery slots. "I'm going to be white. I'm white. Me too. There's too many in here. We need more people to be blacks." "Well, not me. Well, not me." "Hey, we ain't got enough guns. Only the ones with guns are in. The rest of you get out. Come on, you're black, you're white. Give me a gun. I had it first. Come on, you meatballs. Black's the best part. You get to charge." "Yeah, we get to lose." "Look, you can use beer cans for grenades. You can lob grenades. Then you do it." "Well, somebody gotta be black, else we ain't playing." "I'm counting. Time I hit 10, I want to see 5 of you out of here. 1. Russell counted. No one came out, not at 9, not at 10, not after 10. Maniac and Mars Bar just stared in silence at the gunnery slots, where wide-opened eyes began to appear, one on top of another. The 3 words that Mars Bar sneered, the joke that he spit out, "Yeah, bomb shelter," did not even have the moment to themselves, for just then another word, "Geronimo," came plunging from the sky and landed with a floor-jarring, heart-stomping crash directly behind him. A cobra had jumped from the hole, a fat red-haired cobra who was now rolling on the floor laughing so hard, as were all the cobras, that his face matched the color of his hair. You see him, man? You see that dude jump? I never. Oh, look at his face. Somebody check out his pants, man. Check out his drawers. Oh, man. Well, Maniac had to wrap Mars Bar in a bear hug to keep him from charging that fat red roller. The laughter stopped as if cut by scissors. The cobras were standing. John McNabb sauntered forward and said to Mars, "You got a problem, Sonny?" "That wasn't funny, John," said Maniac. "He could have been hurt." John kept his eyes on Mars Bar. "I ain't talking to you, Magee. I'm talking to Sonny here. Don't you like our party, Sonny boy?" Mars Bar strained against Maniac's arms. "You ain't got to worry about me coming to no more of your parties, fish belly. And you ain't got to worry about me invading this dump. Anybody come to a block away, they'd faint from the smell." McNabb advanced. Maniac shouted, "John, you owe me. I brought the boys back." McNabb took another step, then stayed. The cobra stayed, and Maniac, clamping the struggling Mars Bar for dear life, lugged him down a gauntlet of seething eyes to the door and the street. Mars Bar wrenched free and stomped on ahead. Maniac followed. It was almost dark. High above, the streetlights were buzzing on one by one. After several blocks, Mars Bar wheeled. "You suckered me. You softened me up with them Pickwell peoples, then bring me here? What'd you think? Did you think I was going to cry? Okay, I come over. I did it. It's done. And don't you be coming around no more. You hear me, fish? Because you ain't only seen me half bad yet." He turned and headed due east. Maniac walked another way. It was a good question. What had he thought? What had he expected? A miracle? Well, come to think of it, maybe a miracle happened. Maybe another had snuck up on him. It happened as he was clamping and lugging Mars Bar down the gauntlet of cobras, trying to keep him alive. But what was Mars Bar doing? Fighting him, Maniac, straining to get loose and bust some cobras. Outnumbered, outweighed, but not outhearted. And the miracle was what Maniac felt. He felt pride for this East End warrior who Maniac could feel trembling in his arms, scared as any normal kid would be, but not showing it to them. "Yeah, you're bad, all right, Mars Bar. You're more than bad," Maniac thought. "You're good." Maniac stopped. He had been walking in circles. It was dark. He turned one way, then another, for the briefest moment thinking he should go home, and then remembering that once again, he had no home to go to. Okay, 3 chapters to go. Where is he going to end up? We said how this is part 3 of the book. Part 1 was the Beals. Part 2 was Grayson. So far, part 3 is the McNabbs. But I think after the way he left the party, it's clear he can't go back there. So what will happen? Chapter 43. He slept in the park that night and for the next dozen or so. Sometimes in the buffalo shed, other times at the bandshell benches or the pavilion. The nights were warm now. June was on the way. He ate when and where he could. For apples and carrots and day-old hamburger buns, you couldn't beat the deer and buffalo pens. A new Acme had opened, and the bakery section always had a tray of free samples sitting on the counter. And there were always the Pickwells. It may have been an illusion, but it seemed that the hungrier he got, the farther Mrs. Pickwell's whistle traveled. Some dinner times, there was hardly a spot in town from which he could not hear it. He read in the library. He joined pickup games at the park, baseball, basketball. School was letting out now, so there were more kids. Mornings were the best. He would rise with the sun's color, before the sun itself, before the bison, and set out. He came to think of these apple skin hours as his special time with the town. There was not a street or alleyway or house or store, not even a garage they didn't recognize. His footsteps fell everywhere. Well, everywhere, of course, but on the bridge over the Schuylkill. His eyes went everywhere except on the P&W trolley trestle. And the people, most of them he did not know by name or face, yet they revealed themselves to him even as they slept. He knew them by their windows and cars and porches and the toys they left outside. But most of all, he knew them by their backyards. Flowers, weeds, junk, pet houses, tree houses, vegetable gardens, tires, grass ranging from desert sparse to shaggy to trim. The backyards were as different as the individual faces. East End, West End, black and white, that stuff would begin only when the alarm clocks rang. For now, before sunrise, there were no divisions and barriers. There were only people, families, town. His town. Well, as much his as anybody else's. He knew that he could be sleeping right then in the Beals house, or the Pickwells, or even the McNabs. But beyond that, for a few enchanted moments each newborn morning, he believed that there was not a single home in Two Mills, not a single one, that would not happily welcome him to enter and go upstairs and curl up between its sleepers. Maybe that's why he left the bandshell bench late one night in mid-June and went to someone's backyard on Hamilton Street, someone whose leaf lettuce he had watched growing, and he quietly opened the gate, closed it behind him, and laid himself down on a white wicker love seat on the back porch. And from then on, he slept in a different backyard or back porch every night. Once, finding a back door unlocked, he slept in a kitchen. I don't know if that's the safest plan there, Maniac. All right. Let's see. I think we'll have time for one more chapter, 44, or at least part of it. One morning in early July, cruising down the Apple Skin Hour, Maniac thought he heard footsteps other than his own. He stopped, but only the vast quietness responded. It happened a few more times. He figured it must be his own footfalls echoing down the row house canyons. 2 days later, passing an alley, he thought he saw something that moved at the other end. And once, turning onto Broad Street, he had the feeling, more than a sight, that someone had just flashed around the corner 2 blocks away. Who do you think this might be? When these odd sensations continued for another morning or two, Maniac knew he was not alone. So he was not totally surprised when, a few mornings later, he turned a corner and ran smack into the other early hour cruiser. No, it wasn't the what that surprised him. It was the who. It was Mars Bar Thompson. They quickly bounced off each other and just went their separate ways, neither paused, neither said a word. This was the first in a series of apparently random mergings. Intersections, alleyways, one never knew when he would come upon the other. Sometimes they found themselves running the same route, only a block apart. On one occasion, they trotted down the same street at the same time in the same direction, but on opposite sides of the street. And then one day, as it happened, they each turned onto a particular corner at the same moment and headed off in the same direction, side by side. Still, neither spoke, neither said a word, not even their eyes met. They just jogged silently for a block and then veered apart. The next time they dovetailed together, they stayed that way for 2 blocks, then 3, and so on. No words, no looks, just the rhythmic slapping of their sneaker soles upon the sidewalk. Stride for stride, shoulder to shoulder, breath for breath, until they were matching at all points, like 2 runners become one. Morning after morning, it happened this way, the 2 of them meeting up at an intersection and without the slightest hitch in stride, cruising off together. Though each face showed no awareness of the other, they were in fact minutely sensitive to each other. If Mars Bar cranked up the pace just a notch, Maniac would pick it up within a stride. If Maniac inched ahead, Mars Bar was there. If one veered left or right, the other followed like a shadow. One day one was the leader, the next day the other. One day, Mars Bar would lead Maniac down the river, down the tracks, past the railroad gondolas, each with its mountain of coal, to the rolling mill at the steel plant where his father worked. Another day, Maniac would head for the townships to the north and west, the farmlands of the country, where dew sparkled on spider webs and nature was doing such fresh and wonderful things that you could almost hear the long, neat congregations of corn clapping, Amen. When the working people began leaving their houses, the daybreak boys diverged, Mars Bar to the East End and Maniac to wherever. A week passed, a second week. Morning after morning, stride for stride, breath by breath. Never a word, never a glance. Each believing the other simply happened to be going where he was going. All right, and we will finish the rest of this chapter in our next section here.